You know, for a 30-year-old man in a mental asylum type room who reviews kids' horror in front of people with no lives, shout out to you guys. There's nothing more appropriate than me reviewing Creepshow, because that's effectively what you're watching right now. So today, I'm going to be talking about this franchise. That's right, I'm talking about Creepshow because it's the first time I've ever seen it in my life. I was not old enough to be around when this was super popular, and I did not watch or read a lot of adult horror when I was a kid. I used to be into Goosebumps, I used to be into Haunting Hour, I used to be into Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, but I did not watch any adult horror growing up because there's a really in-depth answer as to why I never did it. And the reason is because I'm a scaredy cat fucking bitch. I can't do that shit, bruh. In my fucking room every single night, bro. I'd be watching this shit that y'all tell me to review and watch, and then I swear to God, man, that fucking shadow in the room was not there before, and that shit cannot be the coat hanger. I know that shit is someone in the back fucking waiting. I hear noises under my bed. This is a true story, y'all. This is a true fucking story, y'all. I was getting into adult horror a while back, and this was like, when I was a kid, I just started experimenting. I was like, oh, fuck it, you know what? I might as well start getting into this shit. So I started watching and reading some stuff, and one fucking night, I heard noises under my goddamn bed. These fucking bags crumpling and shit. So, obviously, I go into full fucking G.I. Joe mode where I'm like, alright, it's a life and death. There's some motherfucker under there. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna whoop his ass. But I can't whoop his ass with my bare hands because I'm small as shit. So what I did was, I ran to the kitchen, I grabbed a couple kitchen knives, and I literally dove under the bed. By this time, my mom was fucking freaking out. So she was watching my dumb ass. I got the knives, grabbed them shits, came back to my room, and I dived under the bed. And as soon as I dove under the bed, I did not see any motherfucker down there. There was no old woman. There was no creepy ass man. There was no creep show going on there. All right? All it was as I got up and I walked to my door, a fucking mouse crawled out under the bed and fucking went through the little door crack and went out into our fucking living room. Yeah. It was a fucking mouse crumpling bags under her. I thought my ass was in a Mr. Nightmare video. I thought my ass was grass. And first of all, why did I run to the kitchen where I could have got fucking gangbanged another way by somebody hiding in there? I don't know. But it worked. And that rat did never saw the light of day again. It might have just ran away. It might have got rat poisoned. We don't know. But hey, man, that's why I don't get into adult horror. But here I am today talking about it. So yeah, I have hopped on the Creepshow train and I have enjoyed it. This franchise has ran a train on me and I have very much had a good time with it, except for Creepshow 3, which I'm pretty sure gave me anal herpes from it. So yeah, let's talk about the series right now. So there are 4 movies in question which we're going to be talking about for this ranking. And obviously, since it is adult horror, you can see me cursing and going all out. I usually can't do this in kids' horror reviews, so for those who are not used to it, yeah, this is how I pretty much talk on a day-to-day basis. I hold it back for kids' horror. I'm not holding back right now. So yeah, 4 movies in question. We have Creepshow 1, which is actually a very good movie. 4 out of the 5 stories were extremely good. I had a really good time with them. And I believe 2 or 3 of them are like really, really good. One of them is good, and then one of them is pretty weak, but it's the first story and it's kind of shorter, so it gets it out of the way. The second movie, Creepshow 2, this one is not as strong as the first one. It's got good stories in it, but they're not as potent as the first movie was. They do have creativity, but it's usually the execution that does not land always as hard as it did in the first one. But they still have good stories in them. So Creepshow 2 is good. Creepshow 1 is fantastic to amazing. Then you have Tales from the Darkside. Tales from the Darkside is an unofficial Creepshow movie because I believe it has, the anthology style to it. It has The Cat from Hell, which is a Stephen King story adapted. For those who don't know, usually in the Creepshow films, they always have one Stephen King story adapted in it. So you have The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill in the first movie, which Stephen King plays in. And this is apparently, I believe, an adaptation from a short story called Weeds, I think. Or maybe it's just a normal novel called Weeds. You have The Raft in the second movie, which is adapted from Stephen King's Skeleton Crew, a book which I am currently reading at the moment, and I have read the story version of that, so I do have some comparisons. And then in Tales from the Darkside, you have The Cat from Hell. And The Cat from Hell, I think it's from Just After Sunset or something like that. Some Sunset title short story book of like 10 stories. So that's from that one. I haven't read that, so I don't have any reference, but I have seen the film adaptation, so there we go. And then we have Creepshow 3, which is straight fucking, like, I'm talking about You ever seen those videos of the whale carcasses which are dead and rotting, and then you see all the people gathered up by the rotting whale carcass on the beach, and then because it's built up enough methane, it just combusts in a nuclear blubber explosion? That's what watching Creepshow 3 is. You see this fucking dog shit, and it's like that rotting whale carcass exploding in front of your face. Your nostrils are covered, your eyes are covered in it, and you've smelled like fucking rotten fish for a month straight. Doesn't matter how much Old Spice moisturizer you use to wash it out. That shit sticks with you, all right? Your Dior Sauvage cologne is not covering that shit up. You're not getting no bitches for the rest of the month. That's what this shit is. Creepshow 3 takes away your right to get bitches, takes away your right to smell good, and takes away your appetite for an entire month. This shit is a three-way fucking slap to your dick, and that's why it's called Creepshow 3, because it's 3 fucking ways to torture your balls, your eyes, and your nostrils for how much it fucking stinks and reeks in that bitch. Alright? Fuck Creepshow 3. That shit is the worst horror movie I've ever seen so far. But the other 3 are pretty fire. So, let's get into the ranking regardless. It's a general overview of how the films rank, but I have a detailed list over here, and the detailed list is basically a notebook with marker, because I have to use that as reference. So let's talk about the different stories, and yeah, this is probably going to be pretty long. If it ends up being too long, I'm going to make it a 2-parter, because I don't want to make the video extremely long, but I might make it a 2-part video, we'll see. So the first story, or I should say the last story, there's 16 stories that are from the Creepshow franchise movies, and I've ranked them from best to worst. We're going to start with the burst. We're going to start with the bottom of the list. I said burst. Maybe that's like bottom worst. Is that a new word I can create on the spot? Burst. Burst is my new word, y'all. Bottom and worst of the doo-doo septic tank. So this one is probably the worst horror story I've ever fucking read in my life. This shit is fucking unbelievably trash. This is like, when you watch this shit, it's like getting a lobotomy. Like, I've never had a lobotomy, but I've read about it, and I've seen portrayals of it. I've seen the medical version of it. I've seen Superman using those hyper-focused lasers and lobotomizing that guy's brain. This shit is a lobotomy done within movie format. So the bottom of the story, number 16, is The Haunted Dog. Haunted Dog is from Creepshow 3. Surprise! Creepshow 3, Haunted Dog, the very last story in the movie. And it gets a 1 out of 10. This is fucking straight horrible. This, again, like getting a lobotomy. You've never had a lobotomy. This is like getting a lobotomy. It's basically about this real douchebag, dickhead, pretentious doctor who is walking around in New York. He has to get to his place. He works in this like rundown hospital medical place. He's a drug addict. He likes to go party. He's a terrible person. He's an absolute dickhead. And he basically runs into a homeless guy who's begging him for food. He clearly turns him away, says, "Yo, get away from me, you bum," or some shit like that. Classic New York behavior. Average New Yorker. Tells the bum to go away, and he goes to a hot dog stand. And in the hot dog stand, he cuts in front of everybody in line. They all yell at him. He pays for the hot dog, grabs it. I don't even think he pays the guy the right amount of money. He tries finessing him for money. He's a doctor. He has that much money. He still tries to hustle. I mean, I would say I respect it, but this guy is such a dick that I don't respect him. Gets the hot dog, and he tries to eat it, but he accidentally falls to the floor. And, this is the New York floor. So when your shit falls into like a New York sidewalk floor, that's basically the same radioactive level as Chernobyl, right? Your hot dog becomes the same type of shit that you would find after the Chernobyl explosion. And that's all because it's New York. So it lands down, he picks it up, it's full of dirt and pubic hair and whatever else might be on New York sidewalk streets, cockroach legs and shit. And he's like, all right, I'm not going to eat it. So he gives it to the homeless guy. Hey, homeless guy, you enjoy this? He gives it to him, and then he goes back to the hot dog stand, gets another one, and he's about to leave. And as the homeless guy is so happy, he's eating this dirty, disgusting-ass hot dog, he starts choking. And he collapses to the ground, he starts choking to death, and then the doctor kind of just like looks in his direction, but he's just kind of doing the Dave Chappelle thing where he's like, and just walks away, right? He goes to his workplace, And we see in his workplace, he's a terrible doctor. He just insults everybody, makes them feel bad. He's popping pills more than a SoundCloud rapper over there. And that's all he does for his profession. He also tries to hit on his assistant, and assistant, for some reason, keeps putting up with him. I don't know why. I would instantly quit on the spot if that was my boss. But she puts up with him. He tries hitting on her, tries doing stuff. And he also goes to these drug addict rave parties. And you know, he just sort of parties there, gets drunk, tries to get the bitches and shit. And then what ends up happening is, well, let's say something starts haunting him, and that something may be related to the certain somebody who may have choked to death nearby him. So yeah, he starts getting haunted by that person, and yeah, this episode is stupid. A majority of it is just him acting like a dick, poor attempts of being funny, really just to annoy you and get on your nerves, and the scares and the practical effects and the visual effects of who he's being haunted by is done so terribly, so horribly, and you know, it ends in a very just sort of wet fart way. You know, it doesn't really go anywhere. It just sort of ends with a wet fart, and essentially the whole thing is just a drawn out wet fart. So it gets a 1 out of 10. As you can tell, I'm very excited to talk about these stories. Number 15. All right, the next story on here is Alice, which is the very first story in Creepshow 3. You're getting a good idea of what Creepshow 3 is, isn't it? Creepshow 3's first story, Alice, is number 15 on my list. Alice is basically, it's not the exploding whale blubber, but it's like you watching that whale blubber slowly build up methane and decay in front of you, and you see the great white sharks pick it off. And unfortunately, because it's great white sharks, they also picked off pieces of your flesh as well. This is not a fun experience. This is actually quite a painful experience, and it's fucking disgusting as well. Essentially, if you want to save yourself from watching Alice, for all of you out there, you could look up a video called 2 Girls, 1 Cup. And this is essentially like the first time you've seen that video. And for those of you who've never seen 2 Girls, 1 Cup, go ahead, look it up, go on whatever website you have to, go watch that, and then you've effectively saved yourself from watching Alice. Alice is about a girl who's got a really dysfunctional family. They always argue. They always banter with each other. She's not having fun. She seems like she's a very edgy girl, you know, kind of just like the black sheep of the family. And she ends up getting this remote from a friend, or maybe I forgot if she got it shipped to her, if she got it from a neighbor or something, but she gets this remote shipped to her. And with the remote, it's effectively like she can warp reality with it. So as she clicks one button, she can completely change her family to a brand new one. You know, she relives the same events, kind of like Groundhog Day, but it's a really shitty version of it. She clicks it, she goes through the same moment of seeing her family, but now it's a completely different family. She can change it again. Her whole family is African American. She could change it again. Her whole family is Mexican, and they all speak Spanish, so she has to put on subtitles. And then she starts eventually keep fucking with the remote, and starts warping reality to the point that she becomes this disgusting, warped, warty monster. I genuinely, it almost invokes vomit within my mouth. It is so goddamn nasty. She eventually becomes this disgusting being thing that's like dripping flesh. Like flesh is like dripping off in puddles. It is nasty. And then it goes to like some really stupid scenes. Like there's this random scene of her like grabbing food and eating it like an animal. Like she's just hungry. Like she grabs a cake. She's like, a long day. Shit, stupid shit like that. Like, what the fuck is the point of that? Being in the shit. Like I'm actually just getting an aneurysm right now. It's just such random bullshit. See, it's like, all right, you have this disgusting body horror, you have this plot line, and then you have her start eating like an animal and acting like it's like an Adult Swim show. I'm like, well, what is going on here? And then it ends with this like really stupid note where it's like, oh, hey, guess who actually made this remote? Wow, guys, damn. Some random person by them made the remote. The entire Creepshow 3 is like Pulp Fiction. It's like every story is related to each other and somehow interlocks. It's not the anthology. It's like all interconnected anthology, which is like, what the fuck? So yeah, we find out someone made it, and it ends on a really stupid note. And then the family just, they're such a bad group of characters, you don't even feel sympathy. You know, you're just like, yeah, fuck these people. Fuck that bitch Alice. Fuck that guy who made it. Fuck all these people. So that is Alice, for all of you know. Again, Look up Two Girls, One Cup or One Guy, One Jar. Watch that and you'll save yourself from watching this story. You don't need to watch it. All right. Next up, number 14 is Professor's Wife, again from Creepshow 3. Now, this is the funniest story that I've watched in Creepshow. This is actually hilarious. The concept is like something out of a Meat Canyon video, and I actually enjoy it. Sorry, Meat Canyon, I feel like that might be an insult to you regarding the quality of what this episode was, but it's a very hilarious episode. But again, it is hilariously bad. All right, so it gets a 3 out of 10. All right, but it did make me laugh. It did make me laugh quite a bit for how absolutely ridiculous and stupid it is, but it did make me laugh nonetheless. So it is a little bit more enjoyable than the previous two. Now, this is about a certain character, this scientist kind of guy who's like world-renowned. Well, I shouldn't say world-renowned, town-renowned scientist guy, this professor. And effectively, he's going to be getting married after a long time, and he wants to invite his two top-ranking students that he had in his college career. He wants to invite them over to come see his wife, come be the best men for the wedding. They come over, and right away they think that there might be something more to the wife, that he's such a mad scientist, such a weird guy, that there's no way that this could be a normal woman marrying him, and she seems a little bit too robotic and android-like. So they're like, all right, what's really going on here? And they decide to take one of the most ridiculous Adult Swim type decisions, like Adult Swim skit type decisions on figuring out how, if the wife is real or if she's not. It goes on a ridiculous route, and then let's just say maybe they made the wrong decision and the wrong mistake as to how they wanted to solve the situation. I'm gonna leave it at that. It gets super gory, super unnecessarily dark and gory, but it was funny. So maybe you might laugh at it. I don't know. That's it for Professor's Wife. Next up, number 13 is Father's Day. Now, this is the very first story in Creepshow 1. Father's Day is effectively about this woman who grew up with this very abusive father, and he was super abusive, super mean. He was always yelling, super crabby, and she kept dealing with him, kept dealing with him, kept dealing with him, kept dealing with him. And I think it's her father. I don't know if it's her husband or father, but I think it might be her father. I think he's super abusive, super mean, keeps insulting her. He keeps complaining all the time. He's just a real pain in the ass, a real dickhead, and it drives her crazy. Like she'll I think it's like she'll ask her for food and just he just will throw it in her face, and he's a real unpleasant person. So eventually one day she snaps, and she effectively starts beating him to death, beating him to death, beating him to death, beating him to death, and surprise, he dies. So he dies, she kills him, and then you cut to in the future where basically you are seeing these very pretentious, douchebaggy, group of people, and I believe one of them is related, or maybe all of them are related to this woman, because the woman is their aunt. I believe it's their aunt. And she's gonna be coming back to see them. She inherited her father's fortune, so she's very rich. Therefore, all these kids are basically trust fund babies. They're super rich as well, and they always host this big lavish party in wake of their grandfather's death, and she always attends, and she always comes see them. So she comes over, and we see her, and you kind of have this potential for a good character moment where she's at the gravestone, and she's very much you can tell she's guilty about having to kill a person, and you can see her drinking and dealing with it and how it kind of affected her life. But at the same time, she doesn't feel super remorseful, because again, he was a terrible person. He was an absolute dickhead. He ruined her life for a long time, and she finally was able to get rid of him. Now, this character introspective could have been done really well if it was kept being expanded upon. We got more with her. However, let's just say her fate ends very quickly, and she's one of the first people to be dealt with in terms of what happens in the story. I wish she was kept until the very end, and she had a lot of potential, so I don't know why they dealt with her quickly, but it had potential, but it didn't really go anywhere. So basically, let's just say, as a celebration for their grandfather, or whoever this guy is, I forgot. This has been such a long time since I watched this. Whoever this guy is, the guy who's dead. It's been a long time, and let's just say, got the full moon out, got the night out, and let's say he's not done with revenge. he may or may not come back for revenge in whatever fashion or method it may be that he comes back for it. So yeah, a guy who's dead comes back for revenge. You guys can put 2 and 2 together as to what's happening. Turns into a little bit of like a slocky slasher kind of thing. A lot of death. You have a lot of good deaths that happen. They're fun. They're fun enough, right? They're not the craziest, but they are pretty fun. And yeah, that's pretty much the story. You just get a little bit of a slasher at the end, and it ends on a pretty creepy note, but it's kind of done in a very goofy way, so it's a little bit like dark comedy. So yeah, that's Father's Day. It got a 5.5 out of 10. I did enjoy it a little bit for the kind of character introspective we got with the, I believe, the aunt, and I did like the kind of like goofy kills, which are still pretty fun. So it doesn't get a completely terrible score, but it's not really much to it. A lot of it is like just left to desire, and it does end on a kind of a dumb note on certain parts. So Father's Day got a 5.5 out of 10. Not terrible, had some fun moments, had some potential, but did not land. Now 12th story is from the Tales from the Darkside, and it's actually the movie, the second story in the middle, which is The Cat from Hell. Now this might pose some drama because people, for some reason, enjoy The Cat from Hell quite a bit. I believe they find it fun. I know Monster Blood loved it, but Monster Blood is Monster Blood. Enough said there. Just kidding, brother. He enjoyed it. I know he likes cat and animal stories, so I can see why he liked it. I believe Goosebumps Completionist also liked this one. He found it as like a fun version of Tom and Jerry, which I can see that's a good metaphor, or a good comparison. I can see why you liked it. I did not enjoy this one. I found it very stupid, and from reading really good cat stories and stuff from Goosebumps, stuff from other kids horror stuff. I've read better cat stories. I've liked a lot. I actually enjoy a lot of the cat stories that I've read. This one has a fun premise. The premise is really fun, and I feel like it's one of those really weird, iconic Stephen King type of weird fucking stories that you're like, of course only Stephen King would come up with that. But execution wasn't all there. I just found it really goofy. It had a fun premise, but really more than that, it felt kind of stupid, felt kind of dumb, felt kind of lackluster, so I wasn't really a big fan of it. It's about a hitman who is essentially hired to go after his next target, and he goes for this really rich family that hired him. I believe they made all their money off of a pharmaceutical drug, and the twist to this assignment of a mission is that this super rich guy who made this pharmaceutical drug wants him to kill a cat in the house, which has unfortunately taken the lives of his friends. This cat, the cat from hell, it's a very evil cat. It's taken the lives of his friends, and he doesn't know how to kill it. He doesn't know how to get rid of it. So he wants to hire the best hitman he can from the underworld to go after and kill it. So yeah, a little game of twisted Tom and Jerry. It had potential. It had a fun concept, but I didn't really enjoy it. I thought it was kind of stupid. The way that it kind of kills people, the way it kind of, deals with this hitman. I didn't really find anything cool about it. There is one good scene, which is a certain scene involving the throat. For those who've seen the story, something crawls inside of somebody's throat, and it's very horrific, and the way it comes out is well done. But yeah, aside from that good practical effect moment, I didn't really enjoy it too much, was not big of a fan. Found it pretty stupid, found it pretty goofy, lackluster. So The Cat from Hell gets a 6 out of 10. Not the worst thing. It is fun in certain regards, fun concept, and has a good moment to it, but overall the story is just sort of not there. And the explanation as to what this cat is, you get hints of what it could be, and the backstory given is sort of just like, it's one of those things. So yeah, Cat from Hell, 6 out of 10. Next story on here is number 11, which is Old Chief Woodenhead. Now, Old Chief Woodenhead is about this elderly couple who run this little souvenir antique store in this very, very small town. Kind of looks like a cowboy Wild West type of town. Very deserted, not really anybody there. I think it's because there's a severe drought going on and a lot of people moved out, so really nobody lives there. But they still run this antique shop. They like being there. and there's this Native American businessman who comes by, and he really appreciates the business that they're doing. He appreciates the fact that they stayed even during the drought to help out people. So he rewards them with some very sacred Native American items from his tribe or the people that he comes from. He gives it to them. They're very appreciative. It's a very sweet old couple. They love this guy. They love the fact that he respects them. They have a mutual partnership. So the old shopkeeper holds on to it, puts it in a safe place. And then you have these three goons who effectively come in and try robbing the store. One of them is this, I believe, Native American guy who's the son of the businessman, but he's kind of a rebel. He doesn't like what his father does. He believes his father's very old school. He doesn't believe in all that mystical, spiritual crap. So he comes in with a double-barrel shotgun and starts robbing them at gunpoint. He has this goon start stealing stuff. And I believe he wants to build up enough money with the stolen goods to where he can drive out to California to become a movie star because he thinks he's super hot. He's got the hair for it. Really, really strange motive for a character, but we'll roll with it. And unfortunately, it ends up with him shooting and killing the shop owners and having to run away with the goods and effectively getting away with the crime, or at least so they think. So there is a big souvenir in the shop which is called Old Chief Woodenhead. It stands outside of the shop, and it's this life-size version of a Native American with the whole tribal paint. Native American hat, has a bow and arrow in hand, a little knife tucked in there. Or it's like a knife or an axe, I forgot. But it's this wooden statue, life-size statue of a Native American, I guess, war hero, who they call Old Chief Woodenhead. And there are hints that it might be, may or may not be alive. There's a little bit more to it, a strange glimmer in the eyes, maybe certain movements. You don't know if it's going to turn into Night of the Living wooden statue or what's going on. But you find out what's happening when all of a sudden something may start coming after these goons as revenge for the fallen shop owners. And yeah, it turns into a bit of a slasher. However, this had potential. It had good acting from the shopkeepers. It had, a good premise. I would say a pretty interesting premise, but it kind of falls flat. You don't get a full detailed viewing of the kills. You don't see the full thing. A lot of them are silhouette. A lot of them are shadows, and you just see the aftermath of the kills that go on in this episode. So because you don't see the full kills, I deducted points away, and obviously it doesn't really land. The kills aren't that impressive. And yeah, this doesn't really end. It had a strong start, but it doesn't end well. So I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. It had potential. It had some of the better acting from Creepshow. I really enjoyed the shopkeepers. I like the sort of strange premise to it, but it doesn't end well. It just kind of reduces itself to a normal slasher, and the slasher kills you don't really see. So yeah, 6.5 out of 10. Still pretty decent, still pretty enjoyable. Next up is actually from Creepshow 3. We're returning to Creepshow 3. And this may shock people. A lot of people may have thought all the bottom stories would be from Creepshow 3. No, there are some stories which I do enjoy a little bit more than a couple from Creepshow 1 and 2. So next one, number 10, is Radio. Now, Radio is effectively about this police officer. I don't know if he's a police officer or a security guard, but he lives in this very, I would say, low-income ghetto part of town. He lives in this rundown apartment building where you have pimps and you have strippers and you have hookers and a lot of different drug addict people coming by, a lot of different abusive relationships going on room to room. So he lives in a really shitty place, and he kind of just wants to find a way to move out, get a better life for him. And one day when he's, patrolling, the New York, kind of city. I say New York. I mean, this is not New York, I think, but, I don't know if it's directly said to be New York, but this whole place feels like New York. So, he's in a bad part of New York. I'll say that for now. And he goes along the street, and there are like these like homeless people, these like, I guess, weird disabled homeless people that are like selling these kind of like voodoo objects, or they're trying to scam people. So they have this one radio, and he kind of wants to get a radio because his old one died. So he buys one from the homeless guy, takes it home, and as he starts, fucking with it, it doesn't work. He got it from this scammer type homeless guy on the street who just had a rug out. So he figures, all right, I just got scammed for this shit. But then as he starts walking away, he hears this voice channel turn on, and it's this voice of this very seductive sounding woman, and she basically promises him that she can change his life. And again, this is a radio. This is just one of the radio channels, the only radio channel working on this radio, and it's this female voice that tells him he can basically change his life, but he has to listen to her. So she starts giving him advice as to where money can be, where items can be. She starts basically acting like this AI thing that would be on his side in a video game, telling him what decisions he should make, leading him in the right direction in real life. And you get the sense that this radio channel can predict the future and is guiding him along a certain path. So yeah, that's where the story goes around. Again, it's not a good story. It has a lot of stupid parts to it, a lot of bad acting. But the guy who plays the cop is a pretty good actor. He plays it pretty well. And I do like the premise to it. It reminds me of like the adult version, or like a really shitty adult version of Shell Shocker from Tales to Give You Goosebumps, the one book that was like the summer stories. I believe the campfire one. So Shell Shocker, it kind of reminds me of this voice that's guiding you on this right path. You don't know if you can trust it, but so far everything seems to be true. So you start listening to it, and the guy gets a little bit power hungry, he gets a bit too cocky, and things don't end up that well. Or at least they could have ended up well, but he got a little bit too, egotistical and led himself into a trap. And then you sort of find out that maybe this radio thing might be trying to affect many different people. We don't know. It gets a little bit goofy towards the end, but I still kind of enjoy the concept. Even though it's weird, even though it's poorly done, I do kind of like the idea and premise, and I did like parts of it. So yeah, it gets a 6.8 out of 10. Not good, but not horrible either. Next up is the final story from Creepshow 3 that's on here, and it is number 9 on my list, which is Call Girl. Now, Call Girl is effectively the most average horror story I've ever seen. It's like the textbook definition of average to me. A 7 out of 10. It gets a 7 out of 10. It's about this prostitute, this girl, a sex worker for hire, who is a serial killer from the seams of it. She hooks up with these sappy, thirsty guys, and when she hooks up with them, she effectively, does the deed, kind of gets kinky with them, and then stabs them to death and kills them. And she's this very famous killer, and on the radio, she's being called Call Girl. That's her infamous serial killer name for the chain of murders going on. And she rides around, she uses the money to buy nice cars, nice clothes, and she keeps doing this just for the thrill of it. The actress who plays the Call Girl does a pretty good job. She does a well job on playing her part as this very seductive, very manipulative serial killer, and the very erotic thrill she gets out of killing these guys in very seductive and suggestive manners. So yeah, pretty well done for the Call Girl, at least in terms of that character. And let's just say she gets hired by this one guy, goes a knocking on his door, and let's just say this gentleman may not be all it seems. There may be more to meets the eye, and let's say the hunter who thought she was getting some nice prey may end up becoming the hunted. That is effectively the story. It's very averagely done. The twist is sort of just thrown in there. It's okay. And the ending is sort of very predictable as to where the story was going. Again, very predictable, very average story. It gets a 7 out of 10. Very textbook, average to me. Next on here is from Creepshow 2, which is The Hitchhiker. The Hitchhiker is about this very rich girl who is cheating on her husband. She has an affair with another guy. She's having, the sexy doody-doo in the beginning scene. And as she leaves, she's very kind of pretentious, very rich. She's cheating on him, and she has a very rich husband, but then cheats on him on the side, kind of talking about, how society is with all these different rich couples and weird relationships that they have. And as she's driving down the road on a late night, she sees this homeless man, this homeless African-American man who is all raggedy, kind of looks like a crackhead, and she runs him over by accident. She runs him over with her car and kills him, and right away she freaks out. She's terrified. She's like, oh, I just murdered somebody. She has this internal monologue who always goes on with her. This internal monologue will feel very guilty and then start justifying the things that she's doing, even if they may be wrong. So she runs him over, and she effectively drives away. She tries, thinking, oh, I'm never going to get caught. They're never going to care about this bum that I ran over. However, as she keeps progressing through the stops and she becomes paranoid, this hitchhiker keeps on appearing again and again, in more and more undead forms as the episode goes on. So yeah, this guy keeps coming back and tormenting her. She's freaking out. She effectively starts going, you know what, I can't escape him. I'm going to try killing him. I'm going to try killing him over and over again. But he keeps coming back. He keeps coming back. He keeps coming back to haunt her and try to ruin her life, effectively, even though he's just saying, I want to get a ride. So, she's being haunted. And it ends on a very dark note. There's really great practical effects involving the undead hitchhiker, and the ending is quite dark, but it's also a little bit of dark comedy in there. So yeah, this is a pretty good story. I did enjoy it quite a bit. It's a pretty good one, so I would definitely recommend watching this one. And it is actually the first story I would probably recommend watching out of any of these so far. So yeah, we're at the number 8 mark. The Hitchhiker gets a 7.5 out of 10. Pretty good story, had some good, deeper themes in there. So yeah, definitely check this one out. The next story, number 7, is also from Creepshow 2. It is the second story, the middle story, which is The Raft. Now, The Raft is from Skeleton Crew, a collection of short stories that Stephen King wrote. I believe it's his second collection of short stories. I'm actually currently reading Skeleton Crew, and I have read the Raft short story. I read it after I watched the Creepshow 2 movie. And I would say that the short story is quite a bit better than the movie adaptation. The Raft short story has more character introspective. It does a lot more character development regarding the cast of characters you deal with. You get a more connection to them, more of an emotional connection. You kind of understand why they're doing what they're doing, and you kind of resonate more with them. The ending is also a little bit more twisted in the book. It's more darker, more kind of sinister as to the thing that they may be dealing with. And there's also this weird, groping sexual assault scene in the movie adaptation, which is not in the short story. The short story is just more like isolated, just sex scene. But in the I say the episode because it's not a whole movie. It's like an episode segment. So in the episode segment, it's like this weird, forced upon groping sexual assault scene, which is sort of just a little bit weird. Not the biggest thing, but it's kind of just like, why would you change it from the short story? I don't know. I feel like if they stayed faithful to what the short story adaptation was, it would have gotten a higher score. But, it's not, The Raft is not bad by any means. So The Raft is basically about these group of kids, these group of college guys who effectively go and they, they're sort of desperate to enjoy the last bits of summer that are available before it gets cold. So they all drive out in their, nice car, drop top convertible to this lake area. And this lake area is one that they've been to before. I believe the two guys in the story have been there a while back. So they're returning with 2 girls that they like. And they head to this lake, and it has this wooden raft in the middle where they can swim out to hang out and then just swim around and come back there whenever you want, and then swim back to shore once they're done for the day. So they head there, and as they are looking over at the wooden raft, one of the main character guys who stays till the end, he sees this dark puddle towards the raft area, and he thinks he sees it, but then when he looks back, he doesn't see it. So, they all start swimming over to the wooden raft, and as they head over there, they see this, this what seems like to be like an oil spill. It's like this oil spill in the lake, but it's perfectly circular, and it's moving around, in sort of like a weird manner around the lake and sort of circling this raft. So it's this, strange oil spill. They're wondering what's up with this thing. Is it, is it like, there's no oil nearby, so how could this thing be here? So as they're kind of investigating this thing, they're moving around this wooden dock, and one of them gets curious by this thing, and she goes over, one of the girls in the group, and she touches it, and right away as she starts to touch it, or well, I shouldn't say touch it, she tries to I guess feel it, and then she tries to go touch it, and they tell her don't do it, and then this thing all of a sudden, this black oil spill goo reaches out and grabs onto her hand, and her hand starts burning. It starts like melting off. The flesh is melting like it's acid, and she starts screaming and freaking out. And then all of a sudden, this oil spill starts pulling her, and it starts clinging onto her face, and her face and skin are burning off to the bone. And then it starts dragging her, and it eventually drags her into the water with it and starts eating her, starts eating away her flesh, eating her life. Very graphic, very disturbing. It's a really dark scene. Very, very dark. So yeah, this one starts basically ripping her apart. They start freaking out, and then, you know, they're basically trying to find a way to get out. Maybe more of them start getting eaten up and ripped apart, and they realize, okay, we cannot get out of this situation, you know, alive. And there's some very creative ways this thing starts picking them off one by one. You know, they're very isolated, they can't get anywhere. And then the ending, when you think that maybe one of them managed to get away, let's just say not everything is as it seems. And yeah, it ends on a very, very dark note, as to there's no hope involving this weird monster thing. So yeah, that is The Raft. Pretty good story. I did enjoy it. This one also gets a 7.5 out of 10, same as The Hitchhiker. However, I did put it above The Hitchhiker because I do like the monster. I do like the concept. It's a very unique concept to a monster. This oil spill-like thing with aesthetic tendencies and tendrils, and the way it could sneak up and ooze and attack people. I did enjoy that part, and it has good kills, good practical effects involving the kills that happen in this episode. So yeah, it gets a 7.5 out of 10, but the short story is better. It has more character development, more depth, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So it gets a 7.5 out of 10. Now, this next story is number 6 on my list, and this is actually where I will end this video. I will end this video on number 6 because the next part of this will be the top 5 stories in all the Creepshow film franchises, my top 5 stories that I have ranked. So this is number 6. Now number 6 is from Creepshow 1. It is the last story, and it is They're Creeping Up on You. Now They're Creeping Up on You is about this old man who I believe is a very rich businessman. However, he's very cruel, and he's very isolated. He doesn't like going out in public. He's a germaphobe, and he doesn't like people. He treats people like they're bugs, they're insects, and, you know, treats them like shit, doesn't care about them. And yeah, he just sort of stays in his penthouse all day. He keeps it very clean, he keeps it very pristine, doesn't let anybody in there. He's racist, he's discriminatory, he's an asshole. So yeah. And then one day he gets this phone call from a woman who effectively, one of his employees that he had, killed himself, and this was her, I believe, either her husband or her son. And, you know, she says, oh, you'll rue this day for doing this shit. I'm gonna curse you for this. You'll never live a normal life again. So yeah, he's like, all right, yeah, whatever, you gypsy woman, get on my fucking phone. And he hangs up, and, you know, he starts noticing that around his penthouse apartment there starts to be more and more cockroaches, and he's afraid that there might be an infestation. So he calls the exterminator. He wants the exterminator to take care of this issue. He keeps noticing more and more cockroaches, and he's, you know, kind of freaked out. He's like, I keep this place pristine clean. I keep it as top of shape as it can. So how are these things even getting in? So he starts investigating. More and more roaches keep going, and he realizes, oh, this may be quite the infestation he has going on. And it has one of the grossest, most nastiest, most craziest fucking scenes at the very end of this story, and I absolutely loved it. Now again, it's horrific, it's terrifying, but it's a very good job. It's a very incredibly done scene with practical effects, and yeah, I give him a round of applause for the scene at the end. And you may find out that, let's just say, there might be 1 or 2 forces that may somehow be involved with what's going on in his eventual downfall. We'll put it that way. So yeah, that's Creeping Up on You, a story about roaches and an infestation that may be on a more supernatural curse type level. This one gets a 8 out of 10. It is a good story, pretty good story. I would even say the very ending scene is very, very good in terms of practical effect and gross out. So yeah, these are number 6 to 16 of the Creepshow franchise. All the stories, how I rank, how I feel about them. The next part of this video will be the top 5 stories and all of the Creepshow film franchise. So yeah, I'm going to be uploading that at the same time today once this one finishes uploading. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a longer video, but again, I'm doing a ranking, so I expected it to be longer. I also talk a lot, so if you enjoyed this ranking video, if you agree with me, let me know down below. If you have a similar ranking to me, let me know your ranking for all the Creepshow stories that you have. Did you agree with my list? Did you disagree? Let me know down below. I'm sure a lot of you have watched Creepshow. Maybe you watched it when it came out. You can let me know how you felt about the Creepshow film franchise. And yeah, if you like this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's a free way to support me, and it lets me know you guys are engaged with the content. You want me to put out more content like this. So again, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, free way to support me, and I hope you do consider. So yeah, that's it for this video. Part 2 is going to be dropping later today, and stay tuned. All right, that's it for the video. Deuces. Thank God we got all the whale blubber and all the good stuff out of the way. Now the next top 5. Straight fire. I'm talking about Victoria Justice sex scene. Right. Sex tape with Victoria Justice. That's how good the next shit is going to be. All right? Stay tuned.